I often get asked, how can communication skills help in resolving management issues? So, over the past bunch of months, we've all witnessed what has come to be known as the Great Resignation. Millions of employees, even those who had been with their companies for many years, suddenly quit their job in search of better work. The reasons for this abound. When you hear of folks leaving their jobs because they realize that life is too short to be unseen or unappreciated or undervalued, what I see is a communication failure. Instead of managers and employees productively communicating and engaging to solve workplace issues, employees have decided that the only way to address an issue is to exit from the organization. So, if you're a manager or an employee wondering how communication skills can be used to address management issues and to recruit and retain excellent workers, then this video is for you. I'm Bob Bordone, and I've spent nearly 25 years writing about, teaching, coaching, and researching individuals and organizations on issues related to communication, influence, problem solving, and difficult conversations. And today, I'm going to share with you 4 key communication strategies that workplaces can take and that will help them resolve management issues. The first of these is prioritize communication and listening skills training in managers. So when employees start looking for work, it's rarely the case that low pay is the reason why they want to leave. Often it's the case that they don't feel valued or listened to or taken seriously by their manager. And a big problem with this is that many organizations promote people to management not because they're good at management, but because they're good at the substantive task that they do. So let me give you an example. I've done a lot of work in major academic research institutions. It is often the case that someone who might get funding, let's say from NIH, for a research lab, doesn't get that funding because they're a great manager. They get the funding because they do brilliant research. But then suddenly, they find themselves managing a whole bunch of people, but they have no training to do so. The same can be said for lawyers in law firms, or doctors in hospitals, or academics in universities. They're promoted into management roles, but what they're actually good at is their craft. Organizations that are successful don't throw these people into the lion's den without proper support. Instead, they invest in training skills. They'll invest in training these newly promoted managers in the skills of listening or empathy or influence or negotiation or emotional intelligence. So one domain of my work that is really rewarding for me is being a part of leadership programs that are sometimes set up by forward-thinking academic institutions or hospitals or even religious organizations that have come to realize that they're promoting people into management roles whose primary academic training was not in management. And so these leadership programs are set up to actually give these newly promoted people, whether they are a lawyer or a scientist or an academic or even clergy, the set of additional skills that they will need to be successful in managing a diverse team of workers. So let me just say one thing about this. It's really great to train these managers in leadership programs, but the training shouldn't end there. Communications training has to go beyond managers, and companies, organizations, universities, they need to invest in communications, influence, and negotiation training for all staff. That helps improve morale. It also helps build capacity within the organization to deal with conflict in a productive and direct way. The cost of a training program is a tiny fraction of the cost of conflict that results when employees leave because of low morale and lawsuits. And smart organizations know this. Investing up front has a really good return on investment. It's like investing in preventive health care. Regular checkups, good exercise, diet, all of those end up saving lots of costs down the road. Second, Design, implement, and advertise institutional policies that allow employees to provide feedback and raise issues of concern. So, obviously really nice to have highly trained employees and managers, but bad news, that is not enough. Smart organizations and smart managers also intentionally build internal systems in their organizations for managing differences, disputes, and conflict. There's a whole field that has developed around this called dispute systems design. In fact, with my colleagues Nancy Rogers, Craig McEwen, and the late Frank Sander, I actually wrote the first textbook on this topic called Designing Systems and Processes to Manage Disputes. So the work here is partially designing these systems, but it's also actually letting employees know that the processes exist and how they work. Some years ago, I had the really great opportunity to do some work at the National Institutes of Health, looking at their integrated dispute management system. And it was a really well thought through, intentionally designed system. But problem, very few people used it. And as we did our research, we learned it wasn't because there wasn't a good process in place, and it wasn't because there weren't highly trained and competent people to fulfill that process. It was because many people in the organization actually didn't know the process existed. So the work that you need to do is design a dispute system that works well, but then advertise it, let people know that it's there, and then make sure that people actually trust it and think it works. Third, when it comes to decision making, consider implementing what is called an inform, consult, consensus-built structure. The challenge around communication in many organizations is that it's unclear how decisions get made. It could seem as if decisions are arrived at randomly or mysteriously. Let me give you an example. Some years ago, I was working with an organization that did a really good job of consulting with its employees about decisions to be made. But then, when the decision was ultimately announced, the employees were almost always incredibly angry. Management was mystified. Why is this happening? We keep on soliciting the opinions of our employees, and then we make a decision, and they are angry. But once we delved into it, the problem wasn't about the decisions, but it was about the mysteriousness of the process. What we learned is employees actually didn't even care if a decision was imposed on them. What they resented was the impression that they were being listened to, and then a decision was being made that in their mind didn't reflect what they said. So the solution was to build something that I call an inform, consult, consensus build approach. The idea here is that we announce to our staff that there are some decisions that we're simply going to inform you about. We're not going to actually ask your view. So for example, what time work starts in the morning. Then there are some decisions that we will solicit the opinion of many people, but we ultimately are making the decision. That's called consult. So an example of this might be what the rules are with respect to return to work after COVID. There's a third category called consensus build. For this area of decisions, the goal would be to actually get broad buy-in for any decision made by the organization. So in other words, we were really going to consensus build or negotiate with the stakeholders before coming to a decision. So what we found is that it is important to label to employees which bucket a particular decision fell in. If the bucket was inform, people were fine with that. If the bucket was consult, people were fine with that. And if the bucket was consensus build, people were fine with that. The bigger concern was leaving it all to mystery. So another way of talking about this is saying be clear about decision-making processes. Fourth, be courageous in seeking expert counsel and support. So here is the news. Even when everyone is well trained, even when their good systems are in place, even when we're using an inform, consult, consensus build approach, sometimes conflict can get the best of us. And in situations such as this, management is helped when they have the wisdom and the courage to reach out to professionals for help. This could be in the form of a mediator or in the form of a facilitator. As someone who does this work, I know that reaching out for help can feel risky and scary. After all, you're exposing your own dirty laundry to someone else. At the same time, it could also really trigger you, feel like managerial failure to have to reach out. But let me tell you the truth. Nothing could be farther from reality here. All of us need the help of professionals at times. If my car isn't starting, there are probably a few things I could do on my own to try to get it started, but sometimes I just need a mechanic. I need a professional. If I try to fiddle with the car on my own beyond the basics that I know, I might make things worse. And the same is true around issues of conflict. So getting a fresh expert perspective, using a communications expert or facilitator or mediator really can make a big difference. To sum up, communication skills are essential to preventing, resolving, and managing organizational conflict. Investing in communication skills training, designing systems and processes for managing differences, adopting a decision-making culture of informed, consult, consensus build, and reaching out for help with confidence when needed can all help management build the kind of organizational communication skills and strategies to handle any conflict. Keep watching my channel to learn more communication skills. In the next 2 videos, you'll get some skills for having a difficult conversation at work. And of course, please like, subscribe, and hit the button. I'm Bob Bordone. Thanks for watching, and let's keep negotiating.